Hello, and welcome back to Strange Stories with the Seeker and the Skeptic. I'm Brittany, I'm the Seeker.
And I am Jonathan, the skeptic.
Today we have a very interesting episode that we're actually going to be recording in two different parts. So, we're going to be talking about a book that Jonathan and I both read recently called Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. And then we're going to pause our recording and we're actually going to do a past life meditation. Because, as you will discover in a few moments, the book that we read, Many Lives, Many Masters, is all about past life regressions. So, Jonathan, tell us a little bit about the book that we read.
All right. So this book was written, or at least published in 1988, it's by a psychiatrist named Dr. Brian Weiss. He had a patient named Catherine, um, who had significant anxiety, and her life was very disrupted by this. They did traditional therapy for years. They used medications. Nothing did anything. She just had the same life as before. And so they decided to give hypnosis a shot, which in the late 80s, I think probably was a little, close to fringe. I would imagine based on the time frame. Um, when they started doing the hypnosis therapy, they got different results than expected, or at least a side effect, which would be that through these sessions, Catherine uh, she started sharing life experiences that she could not have had in the lifetime she was in. Uh, Apparently, this treatment went on over a course of years, and Dr. Weiss feels that he has learned a lot about the universe that he did not previously know, and that generally we don't know as a people.
So, Jonathan, tell me, I believe in past lives. I've done a lot of different things working in the Akashic Records and guided meditations to have seen some things from past lives. But what's your belief right now, today?
Well, I I will preface this with the statement that both you and other people that I have known in my life have had these types of experiences before, and I 100% believe that the experiences that you say you have happened. I have no doubt in my mind that these are things that have happened to you. Do I know, do I feel that I know what they mean? No, but I also have not experienced this before. Uh, it could be that there is, this overarching litany of life after life that souls go through to, in some way, I guess, purify themselves for what goal I do not know. It is also possible that the human mind is more powerful than we think it is, and we have the ability through things like meditation to see other dimensions and other realities. I mean, we're starting to understand that you know time is not what we thought it was. Time may not exist at all. So I don't know where I stand on this, all the except just to say that as normal, the people who have had experiences have had experiences. One thing I thought was interesting about this book was what they call in terms the masters, the capital M masters. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So during her work, when she was seeing her past lives, she would often get to a point where she was at the end of her life. And then there would be kind of like this transitionary phase that she would go to. And in that space, Catherine was channeling what she called the masters. And the masters seemed to be kind of this elevated level of consciousness that would give really important information to Dr. Weiss. And the information actually, they said several times throughout the book that it wasn't really meant for Catherine. Like she would remember her past lives, but she would not remember what she channeled from the masters. It was really meant for the doctor that she was working with. And they talked a lot about, themes around reincarnation and people having karmic debts with one another, meaning some kind of energetic imbalance. So, say your father, that you had a difficult relationship in this lifetime, you reincarnate in the next lifetime and you're actually husband and wife. And so then you're kind of balancing out the energetic imbalances or karma between you. So those were some of the things that they talked about. It's definitely things I've read about and heard about from other sources as well. So there seems to be kind of a consistency in the messages and themes that came through with the masters. But I definitely thought that part was very interesting.
Yeah, it's very it absolutely is. If there is something to all of this. So what's interesting to me, one of the many things that's interesting to me about this is, this is actually the second book over the past few weeks that I read about this particular thought process. The first being a book called The Akashic Records Made Easy by a Sandra Ann Taylor, which I found to be extremely interesting and informative, although some of her language in what the quote masters are kind of veer into Christian mythology a little more than I would like. But I feel like, in a lot of ways we use the words we have, and maybe that's a tradition she comes from. And so she uses words like Archangel Michael as opposed to, Zardoz the omnipotent. And maybe, a UFO contactee would get the name Zardoz the Omnipotent because that is the context that they have. And so I think that a lot of it is, contextual, you know.
Mhm. Before we go any further, I just want to give you guys a quick overview of like what the Akashic records are. So, in the book Many Lives, Many Masters, they don't talk about that Catherine's accessing the Akashic records, but that's my belief of the level of consciousness that she is reaching. So that's what the Akashic records are. It is a higher level of consciousness. It is described as the energetic records of the universe. So anything that's ever happened, anything that could potentially happen is all recorded in the quote unquote records, which is really it's energy. So it's also called the DNA of the universe. Some think of it as kind of the collective unconscious. Um, so it is a place where you can go and see what people call past lives. You can see future potentials. You can do healings in the Akashic records because it's at such a high level of frequency that just kind of being in this energetic space is very healing. You can also work with spiritual guides. So in the meditation that we're going to do, you connect with two different spiritual guides in the Akashic records. So, kind of the belief is that time is not really linear. And we use the term past lives because it's how we conceptualize it. We see things as, uh, in a straight line, the 1890s happened before 2023, right? But in how probably the universe actually works, everything's happening in a dimension all at once. So some people kind of think of past lives more as like alternate lives that we have experienced or are experiencing, which is kind of, a mind bend in and of itself. But another belief is that energy does not die. that energy just transforms. So if we pass on from this physical life, our soul's energy leaves this body and then goes into kind of the spiritual realm and waits until it can reincarnate into another physical form. So those are some of kind of the thought processes or beliefs behind, past lives, alternate lives, how the Akashic records work. Um, just a very rudimentary explanation of this, but wanted to give you a little bit more background before we go and explore our own journeys into the Akashic records.
Interesting to note, Brian Weiss is actually still living. He's 78. Looks like he lives in Florida now, like many rich old doctors, I suppose. So that my understanding also is that Sandra Ann Taylor also currently alive. So
Mhm.
these are there are people who are contemporary to us. They are part of the world that we are part of. This is not something that was written by somebody 300 years ago who was told to wear magical underwear. That's not what this is.
No, I
Um,
think that's a good point. Dr. Weiss was a man of science and was very skeptical at first. It was really having a hard time, like, fitting in what Catherine was reporting during her hypnosis sessions, because the original point was not for her to regress into past lives. It was just to try to work through the anxieties that she has in this lifetime. And then it just ended up going, that's where she went to. Um, and so it took him some time to be like, okay, this is what's actually happening here. And now how do I understand this in a way that my scientific brain can kind of wrap my head around it? I also think for me, it was very interesting because I come from the point of view of being a therapist, but I'm also a therapist who leans more towards doing this type of work with my clients. So, doing work in the Akashic Records, doing work with energy. Talk therapy can be great for people needing to process something, but a lot of times it does not get to the root of what is causing the problems in your life or the trauma you've experienced in your life. And so I found that working at a more energetic or spiritual level helps people get to that deeper root and heal um, more easily and more quickly and more deeply. And I can say that from experience working with people, but also from my own experience of doing this type of therapeutic and healing work.
That's a good point. It's very interesting. To kind of loop back around, one thing that's interesting on a personal level for me is when I was a lot younger, you would occasionally come across books about Edgar Casey, TV shows that had kind of a supernatural bent would occasionally mention him, and he's very his story is very similar to what we're seeing here. This is something that multiple people who seem very sincere have found out independent of one another. A lot of Whitley Strieber's, you know, past the Book of Communion, the rest of the stuff, a lot of Whitley Strieber stuff seems to go in this direction. And actually today, listening to another podcast, um, Conspiranormal, great podcast, by the way. Shout out to those guys. Found out about something called the Seth Material by a lady named Jane Roberts, who started publishing in the 70s, things that she had channeled from an entity that called itself Seth, that really seems really super parallel to all of these things. Um, and so that probably I'll be reading that sometime in the near future after I get done with the mountain of other, you know, mystical slash paranormal slash mythical things that are currently on my list of stuff to read,
Yeah, we have a long list for sure.
which is a good thing. We're
It
definitely not
is.
not complaining about that.
No.
So now we've talked about this a little bit, and then there's going to be a little break. Maybe we'll put some, a ding or something in there to denote the difference between one and two. and then we're going to do this guided meditation, and maybe see something, maybe experience something, maybe not. Who knows? I have no doubt that she will. I don't know one way or another where I will, but we're going to come back. So to you listeners, it will be as if no time has passed, except for the ding, if there is one. We'll see. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what transpired after. So a psychic a psychic field trip, if you will.
Psychic field trip. And I just want to shout out, this is a guided meditation that my Reiki teacher, the lovely and wonderful Mary Raposo, recorded probably a very long time ago. Somehow I found it on Amazon. It's on a CD, so we're going old school today with the CD player.
We sure are. We even have rigged up external speakers for it. We're totally gonna just ride it ghetto today.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm excited. But I've done this meditation a couple of different times. It's a great one. I always experience something, so I'm excited to see what I experience and hoping that John will have an experience too. So we will be back shortly.
And we're back.
So we just finished the Akashic Records guided meditation to experience one of our past lives. And Jonathan and I have not talked about what we experienced. I definitely had an experience. And Jonathan wouldn't tell me. So I'm very eager to hear what happened. So tell me what that meditation was like for you and what happened.
Well, I didn't, and I'm not overly surprised by this. I So the way the meditation thing goes, as for the people out there listening, is it kind of talks through a way of relaxing to try to get your mental state in a place I expect uh probably akin to hypnosis, self-hypnosis maybe. Um so that you will be able to have some form of experience dealing with these things. Um, what happened to me was nothing like the things that were being described on the meditation, but I did feel very relaxed, and in my mind, I kept seeing this kind of undulating purple light, kind of reminiscent of the color out of space in a way. If anybody's ever seen that. Um, and every once in a while, I would get a flash